And if you have any questions for Minal, you can leave them in the chat box. The last 15 minutes of the webinar will be for the questions you have, and Minal will take them. Okay. Now I would like to introduce the format of the session to you. I will begin with introducing our speakers today, and then they will take it from there. Rohit and Oksana have questions for Minal, which she will answer. Once we run through those questions, we will open it up for audience questions, and then we will close the session there. Okay? All right, so let me begin by introducing our speakers. First, we have Minal Jagtiani, who is based out of Singapore. Minal is the principal founder of Leadthink, a solution and service that enables individuals to strategize and manage themselves for professional success while building and positioning their personal brand. Minal has over 20 years of experience in publishing, sales, and magazine marketing. Minal, thank you very much for doing this for us. Next, we have Oksana Hera, who's joining us from Lviv, Ukraine. Oksana is a business English and intercultural communication trainer. She holds a master's degree in linguistics, a CELTA from CELTA, a Trinity certificate in business English, and a business cultural trainer certificate from International House, London. Oksana is also an IETFL volunteer, IETFL BSIC volunteer. Thank you for joining us, Oksana. We're very happy to have you. And last but not the least, we have Rohit Das, who's based out of Bangalore. Rohit is a business communication and soft skills trainer with expertise in English for specific purpose. He has worked with companies like Cognizant, Accenture, Infosys, Wipro, HCL, just to name a few. In addition to conducting training, Rohit has also served as a speaking examiner for Cambridge English's business certificates at preliminary and vantage level. Rohit, thank you so much for joining us. Now, now Minal, the floor is all yours. If you could just tell us a little bit about this session and why it's important that we consider it.
Okay, thank you, Delon and the team at BCFAI to have me. You know, to really answer this question would go back to the day you guys launched BCFAI. And I hope in this piece, in the starter, we will understand the relevance of the personal brand. So I'm not sure whether again, Dolon, but I have mentioned it to you that we met in Pune at a CETR conference, and I think we just became LinkedIn friends. She wrote something on LinkedIn, and I reached out to her, and she put a thing with a message to say that if anybody is interested to know more or to be part of this at BCFAI, volunteer, join us. So I mean, this was just about 2-3 months ago, right? So I said yes, and then soon enough there was a message on my personal message on LinkedIn to say, in the inbox, to say that we are having this event, etc., etc. That happened. Then again, a couple of Saturdays ago, maybe a month or so ago, we had she invited us again for the virtual launch of it. And in that, I asked her a question: that is executive presence and an aspect of communication, or an aspect of the way you guys as business communicators, facilitators, see look at executive presence as a part of communications. And she said yes. And this is what I want to say about the personal brand. I continued my relationship with her outside of CETR. I didn't know her at all. I agreed to respond and establish that connection on LinkedIn. Posed her a query, she reverted, invited me, I attended, and I asked a question which was relevant to my work. But I kind of positioned it as a query, as a prod in the broad base of communication facilitation. And today, here I am, invited for the first webinar, which I think it's really great. So thank you for that opportunity again. You get what I'm trying to say about the personal brand. It's sometimes about taking that effort to make those associations, live them, be present, and interact with people so that they see value in your work and how you can add and support them in their visions or in their work goals. So that really sums up the personal brand, about being present, about networking, about being of relevance, about being of value, and about being generous with your knowledge and your information and your time. So I'm not sure whether I've had, I mean, whether this is a good enough introduction or this is a good starter from where we can runway into the event. But if any of you guys yet have a query on why the personal brand is so important, ask me. And then we will take it on.
Thank you so much, Minal, for this introduction, and thank you, BCFAI, for gathering all of us together here today. It's a great event, really inspiring to be here. Minal, you mentioned the importance of personal brand, and I think that for many of us here, coming from training and teaching backgrounds and then moving into communication facilitation, we all know the importance of continuous development, continuous professional development. For many of us, as far as I've seen among my colleagues, it's a way to stay visible as well. So if we look at this continuous professional development in relation with personal brand, are there any pitfalls we have to be aware of?
So you really jumped in, Oksana.
It's a burning question for everyone.
Your question much after, what and how and the process of personal brand. And anyway, it's a good thing that you asked because we're going to include a lot of things, or I hope I can include a lot of things on the topic. So when you say continuous and you say the word development, anything that is continuous is a good thing. Why? Because it reflects that you're on a journey. When you're on a journey, it throws a light on a quest, on points to aspiration as well, right? You want to achieve something. So there's always a good thing about something being in a continuous motion. When the wheels of motion are on something, right? There is a hunger, there's that appetite, and you want to deliver it. So continuous is always good. You talk about development, which is again a very good thing because again you're seeking to improve, you're seeking to advance, you're seeking to grow. Again, it reflects, it dovetails into aspiration and your personal desire to achieve more. So well, continuous and development, to do anything in that on that track is a great thing. However, I want to bring 2 points here for personal development. One is an externalization of, development where you constantly educate yourself, you're on top of new things that are happening, you're always gaining qualifications, and these could be professional, these could be a business degree, wherever you think, and they're all typically, for the audience that we are addressing, we are sitting together, it's about professional upliftment, right? So that we get better jobs or we get better opportunities. That is one part. So we look at the externalization and then we acquire when we are looking at things from outside in. Question I have here is, have we looked at personal development from an inside out? So, for example, I've got this great knowledge and I've got lots of experience, I've got enough degrees, which I think I've got enough degrees, okay? I'm not talking about me, but I'm just painting a picture for all of us here. And I'm thinking that I need to do more and more and more. And I'm constantly investing money in doing all of these, and when better than now in the pandemic, when you have Zoom and you have an internet connection, and bingo, you can achieve all the qualifications we want to. But hey, hang on. Are we looking at developing what we already have? Are we looking at repositioning what we already have? And that, dear friends, is about the personal brand. One can go to town and get more certifications and write all of that on your LinkedIn profile. But I'm saying that instead of doing this, or in addition to doing all this, have we looked at repositioning our experiences? So for example, why is that so important? One is because you need to take ownership of what you do. We always cannot have a knee-jerk reaction to go and do a new course or a new certification because that's the flavor of the month. My thing is, are we trying to say that this qualifications, the experience that we've had over so many years is not valid anymore, that we have to acquire one more piece? So in addition to doing that, absolutely don't disqualify that we must succeed and we must have this continuous development, right? But relook at what we already have. And that becomes very important, because if we don't relook at it and look at the wealth, look at all those experiences, those qualifications as your wealth, and how do we reposition it to different target audiences? And that is a part of the personal brand. That is also continuous development. That definition should also include rehashing, reworking your past experiences to suit the current environment. That is about remaining relevant. So in addition to looking at continuous development, what are we doing with our historical experiences and our qualifications to remain relevant? And that brings me to another point, which is agility. We keep talking about in business, in the way we work, there should be this whole framework of responding to change, about being adaptable. Hello, are we looking at that for our own selves? Are we looking to retrain our minds and to really create an inventory of our own successes, of our own experiences, and saying, how can I reposition this qualification, this experience? Let me illustrate. Okay, let me illustrate with two examples. One is that retrenchments are happening now. I'm looking at this purely from a professional point of view. So a person who's got a job. So retrenchments are happening, and I have been, say, a distribution manager in an oil and gas company, right? So I've had experiences of, if I'm in oil and gas, I've had experience about refinery, about movement, about how to stock, how to send gas cylinders to different parts of the country, for example, right? How to work with the refinery, which is producing all of that, to work with the bottling plant, and then having to work with the logistics to see that the trucks are moving on time, etc., etc. So I have all that experience. That business is now closed because, well, oil and gas is not doing very well. Again, just a hypothetical example. Can I use my experience as a distribution manager to apply for a job as a logistic manager in an online digital company? So what are we doing? I'm changing the focus from company or sector, which is oil and gas, to online digital. I have experience, and mind you, more than experience, I have got business knowledge. I have got business wisdom, right? That is a very, very important piece, again, in personal brand. And as we grow older, we need to really put a value, really put a metric to business wisdom. Because what we are seeing now is this whole new startup energy, right? The young ones are coming, 20s, 30s, fabulous engineers, and all of that. Idea is very good. Are we able to execute? So it does not matter whether you have a brick and mortar company or whether you have a digital company. Business common sense, business wisdom is required. And that comes when you relook at how you are positioning your existing capabilities, skills, knowledge, and take that inventory. So what would be my profile or resume if I have to speak to an online or an Amazon recruiter. I don't talk about oil and gas experience or working in a refinery as much. I talk about my capabilities. I give them anecdotes and I give them stories of how I was able to manage the distribution in times of a flood. I'm going to tell them how, in terms of crisis, I was able to ensure that a particular city or a small village managed to get that truckload of gas cylinders and something like that. And that's how I position my expertise. Okay, and that becomes, that expertise is a part of your personal brand, because guess what, personal brand is based on something which is of inherent value to you. A personal brand just doesn't come up one fine day and I make a lot of connections on LinkedIn and you see me at networking parties. It doesn't happen like that. Personal brand is something that you need to constantly work on. It is your, well, let me give you an analogy. If you are a cricketer in India, or if you're a footballer in any other part of the world, your success is as good as your last 100 runs or that goal into the nets. You have to continuously improvise. If you have to, and I'm coming back to the words that you used, Oksana, which was continuous. And you can do that not only by acquisition, because you're going to go crazy doing that, but take stock of all those capabilities and that wisdom that you have gained and pillar your personal brand on that.
Wonderful ideas, Minal. I think it's quite refreshing to hear this for me personally, because the current world is so competitive that very often we just race in a way. We create this race ourselves and we keep collecting all those qualifications, courses, and and then yeah, we don't take time to reflect on what we do. Thank you for it needs time to process.
Okay, I'm happy that
Right.
created a different perspective to continuous development.
Right. Thank you.
Some interesting insights there, Mrinal and Oksana, and thank you for that. Speaking of continuous professional development, this I was reminded of this thought process that how should one view personal branding? Should it be just seen as a tick in the box activity for someone who's had, let's say, everything going for him, like maybe premier education, um, top-notch clients, awards, certifications, or should he again um, look at CPD as something that adds value and not just blindly follow the mass? What would be your thoughts, Manal?
So I have two questions, I think, is what I'm hearing. One is about how once you've established a personal brand, is that the end of it? Or is it a continuous process? And two is about following the herd, and how you create the differentiation. Am I right, Rohit?
Yes, bang on.
All right. So let me go first with your first question is it a continuous process? And I kid you not, as long as you're a professional, you will have to keep reinventing and you'll have to keep repositioning, because we have different things we've got different qualifications, capabilities, talents, etc. And it's all about perception. So how you perceive me. For example, Delon, when she looked at me, she connected me with communication and executive presence. But if I go to if I sell my services to say, for example, a gym instructor, right, who was just coming out. I mean, I don't normally sell to a gym instructor because they have their own kinds of personal branding expertise that's required. But I'm just giving you a top of head example. It would be different, right? So you will have to kind of figure out or work your personal brand based on who your target audiences are, one, and two, what's your aspiration. So if I see myself as okay, let me give you an example. I'm 55 years old, and I am in the next 5 years. Retirement is coming up, but there's no way I want to retire, right? So I'm looking at starting my consultancy. Do you think I'm going to get clients if in my 59th year, when I've got another 6 months to go for the job? Typically not. Typically not. It's hard, like we said, because there is so much competition, right? So what I'm going to do is right from 55 years old, when I have that aspiration that when I retire, I want to work as an independent advisor, stroke startup mentor, stroke consultant, I start creating a launch pad. I start my runway of seeing myself or aspiring to see myself as an independent consultant. And in that 3, 4, 5 years before I finally have to officially retire or exit the company, I start working on my personal brand. See, the personal brand exists for all of us, right? The question is, are we nurturing it the way we want to be perceived as, or is it a reflection of me in your eyes? So which is more powerful? Do I want to control it and position myself? Or Rohit just says, meet me for a coffee, and he's got some vague idea of what I do. That's the difference. The personal brand is already there. The moment you have a LinkedIn profile, you have a personal brand, whether you like it or not. Now, whether you want to invest in it and think and put two things in mind, your aspiration and whom you are communicating with or to, that defines how you are going to structure your personal brand. And that will lead me to answer your first question, which is, Rohit, about how is it a continuously evolving process? And it is. It is. It's very important for me to, again, I'll be very, very, very transparent, very important for me that Dolan has given me this platform. I mean, where would I have got 30 people on one Saturday afternoon to talk with me? And from different parts of the world in an experience set, skill set, completely different from me. Right? So what is that? These are all the fruits of your personal brand. You have to aggressively think about one Sunday afternoon, devote, get a big cup of coffee, sit in a cafe if you have to, if you've got too much noise going on at home, and decide that. As coaches, as trainers, we help our clients to have an aspiration or what their professional goals are. We need to work that for ourselves because we need to position ourselves through our personal brand the way we want to be seen. And it's continuously, like Oksana said earlier, yes, collect your qualifications, yes, reposition yourself. So it depends on which target audience you're talking. Do you need to talk to them as a logistics guy or as an oil and gas guy? You decide who your audience is and how you need to. There's no one size profile fitting for all your clients. And therefore, it's an ongoing process. What do you need to subdue? What do you need to highlight? All that is something that takes time. And my encouragement to all of you would be to sit and do this every 6 months. I'm imagining many of us here are independent. Okay. So then do that. Just like how you make your targets and you put your whole business plan together, use this and link it to need to be seen. Who do you need to network with? Look at identifying everybody I think would at least have a minimum of on this would have 500 people in their LinkedIn connections, right? Identify your top 100 and break it down. In that top 100 for now we have March coming up, identify 5 of your LinkedIn profile and talk to them, send them a personal message and ask them, share knowledge, share information, just have a Zoom call over coffee. I mean, have a coffee over the Zoom call or whatever. Yeah, just do that because if we can't meet during these COVID times. How many of us are doing that? And that's what I meant by evolving. And the fruits don't come at all immediately. I'm giving you a lot of my personal experience here. The whole of COVID, I was not able to meet anyone like all of us. I actually harvested my LinkedIn connections, and that's how I interacted with Roland. And here I am. It does take time. It does absolutely. I mean, I have seen because I have done this continuously over the last year. I am seeing the fruits. Every month I am being invited at least for one talk or writing an article or something which is adding to my public profile. It will require sustained effort. So once you publish an article, that's not good enough. Shweta and Ishita did such a fantastic job of, almost every day they put up, on LinkedIn. And I got 171 views just because BCFAI is inviting me to talk. That would have never happened. So it is evolving. Now I'm going to, once I've accepted their conversations, I'm going to now write back to say, thank you for connecting with me, and it would be great to know I read your profile. Important thing. If you need to make connections, make it on authenticity. First, go into their profiles and read their profiles. Find something that connects with you. Find something nice that you can write to them an email and say, I really found this interesting in your profile, and be genuine. If you don't find anything interesting, then just say hi, hello. It would be great to meet whenever you're free over Zoom. But if you find something, some experience or some connection somewhere, write to them and I think say, I would really love to know about your experience. Let's chat. And you know what? People love to talk about themselves. Always throw the question to them. I love to hear. They love compliments. I mean, I love it. You love it. We all love it. But let it be from a place of generosity and a place of genuineness. Yeah, these are two aspects of the personal brand. So yes, hard luck. You have to work on it completely. You decide on what your aspirations are, who your target audience is, and then you put an Excel sheet together and decide where you are going with every contact, what's happening, and what are the fruits that are emerging out of it. And I'm telling you, it's a neural network because connections just happen like that. After the first 1.5 years, you will feel you will get, people will start responding to you. I'm telling you, let's get back after a year, Dolon. Next March, we should do this again. And with whoever are here, 30, nearly 40 people are here. And see if you've perhaps taken home at least 2 or 3 tips, really exercise on them, spend time in it, and you will get an ROI.
Thank you for that, Minal. That does make sense.
If I may, Minal and Rohit, you mentioned a genuine way of nurturing your connections on LinkedIn. Following our meeting, thanks to BCFAI, Dalan, and the team, I was lucky to connect with you on LinkedIn, and I went to your article section. And there was already one element which I learned, but having you here today, it's a great opportunity to clarify, having the Zoom call. You mentioned personal brand, and then you, in many of your publications, you mentioned personal capabilities, branding your personal capabilities. So if you could somehow clarify if there is any difference or how they are overlapping.
Okay. So thank you again. Very, very relevant question. I can't have a personal brand wearing a t-shirt to say that I am a good communicator or I'm a good intercultural trainer. It doesn't work. It has to be buttressed on real skills, on hardcore experience, failures, all of it. It has to be. And that's the reason why the personal brand, when done correctly, takes so long. Because it's very easy for me to hire a third person to help me, dish out a fabulous photograph on LinkedIn, write a couple of articles and all of that. That's good. But it has to be based, it has to come out of your real stories. Why is it called personal brand? It's about the self. So sometimes I get a lot of queries from professionals to say that, does it mean that I have to like continuously go out and keep talking about myself? And here's what I want to tell you: it's not about. Yes, it is about showing off. Let's really get that very clearly. But the difference is about showing value, right? So again, going back to your first question, is about I've done a 3-month program with Harvard. Now because of Zoom, because of COVID, we do a lot of these online programs. So I've done that, and I want to tell everyone now I've got a new qualification. So I put my certificate. A few of my friends will say, hey, congrats and all of that. My well-wishers will say that. But of what value is it? No, because if I got that certificate, somebody else has also got a similar certificate from Yale. Big deal. But if I say I've got the certificate and today I feel more confident about a certain subject or a certain topic which I was not having the knowledge or the education of, lack of another word, I have today, that is the value I can give my clients. That becomes a valuable LinkedIn post instead of just posting a photograph of your certificate. No value. Forget about the trophies feeling or promotion of yourself on LinkedIn. That doesn't work beyond a point. It's always about what you can contribute with, what you can add to. And that becomes important. And how do you do that? How do you know that? Only because you have your capabilities. In the work that I do, the company that we have, which is called Lead Think, we work on these capabilities. So we've identified buckets of capabilities, and then we validate that with assessment tools. We validate that with stakeholder interviews, etc., to really identify which are the 4 or 5 capabilities that this individual is really again, lack of another word, good at, or really owns that capability. And focus your communication, focus your LinkedIn profile, focus your storytelling on those capabilities. And that's, today it may be talent, tomorrow it may be skill set, fourth it may be some more qualifications that you acquire, but everything that you do has to be on something of value, not to yourself, but what you can offer with that qualification, with that capability, how you have triggered it and used it for a business outcome, where somebody else is going to benefit. Because the personal brand, whilst it belongs to you, whilst it shows off you, it's about how it is being received by the other. Always it's about the other.
I think it's really important also that you mention not only all those, for example, certificate posts or positive stuff that happens in our experience, but also somehow making use of our failures that teach us a lot and help us become better at what we do.
Yes, always. Failure is a very big learning. And today I will recount another person's story with your permission, if I have it. So I was working in one of India's largest publication houses, okay, and I was very good at my role. I got them enough advertising, and whenever there was a new magazine that came out, it was always something that I needed to handle, because the management kind of figured out that I join the dots and I will produce it and I will make it somewhat marketable and I will get a return of investment on it. However, I found myself getting more and more work, but I wasn't getting promoted. Because guess what? I was having lunch 5 days a week with my team members, but my other colleague who was junior to me, who was new and was not doing as well, was having lunch with the editors and the publisher. And I realized many years later, once I'm in this role, how important it is to network outside of my team. Because a promotion or a new job typically never happens because of your performance. You will 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 times not get a job or a promotion or a business because you're good at it. You are expected to be good. You are supposed to have those functional capabilities. If you're a marketing manager, you're supposed to have done your MBA. You're supposed to be part of associations. You're supposed to have those qualifications and know everything about marketing. But do people know of you? Have people heard of you? What is the image of you that is being perceived? So this is something that I want to bring about, and please hold on to this and even Google it for your own self. This is something called these, I believe these are the vectors of personal brand. 3 things: performance, image, exposure, called the pie. Okay? The pie, let's look at it as a pie, right? You will get your new job only because of performance, and that contributes to only 10% of the reason why you get your job. The other 90% is divided like this: 30% about image, 60% is because have you heard of me, which is why referrals are so important. 2 resumes I have in my hand. I'm the HR manager, 2 resumes. My marketing manager knows this candidate, but nobody in my office, in my organization knows this, despite this person coming out from a fantastic school, having fantastic FMCG marketing experience. Who will I choose? Typically the person who has been referred. Why? Because I know somebody and there's a transfer of trust and a validation because this person knows that person and that person knows me. That is image and exposure. Remember this. That's the reason why personal brand is becoming increasingly important today. Why is it becoming so important today? Sorry, I'm asking questions to myself. I'm going to stop. Please let me know how you want me to take this ahead.
Thank you for this pie illustration. That's a memorable image. Thank you, Minal. Over to Rohit here.
Rightly said, Oksana, and that is, I think, that's the highlight of this personal branding conversation. And this does beg the question, like when it comes to personal branding, would it be fair to relate it with, let's say, brand differentiation, or are both of these, like poles apart?
Sorry, brand what?
Brand differentiation.
So, I'm not sure whether I understand the question, but let me attempt and then you help me understand more if I'm not able to get the right answer, what you might have in mind. So, the personal brand is about differentiation. Anything to make it different from something else, that thing becomes a brand. That product or that service becomes a brand. How is a brand established? A brand is established on certain values. I relate to those values, so I create an identification. I create a connection with that, and those values promise me something. Right? That's why I put my money on it and buy that product. Similarly, that's what the personal brand does. It has to create a differentiation. All right, now I'll give you another example that we spoke about, which was go to a mall and pick up your favorite brand of soap or shower gel or whatever. Right? It all is made out of the same products. We all know it. I mean, that it's all got, the base ingredients are the same, right? But the packaging will be different, the fragrance will be different. Somebody will sell it with moisturizer, somebody will throw a dash of lime in it, somebody will put menthol, some will say it's good for dandruff, etc., etc. So the same product, right, is being decommoditized. If a product like a shampoo, which we don't even think beyond 3 minutes when we are on Amazon or wherever ordering it online, imagine what we are doing to ourselves if we are not filtering or curating my capabilities or my skill sets or my talent. What a disservice we are doing to ourselves if we are not able to do this. And the personal brand, again, is on those differences. How do I decommoditize my experiences to position them as my values? Because when you position your experiences and capability as the value I am giving you, or a promise of the value, that's when my service will be bought, and that's when somebody will cut that check for me and buy my services. So it has to be to create a difference. For example, let's go back to the marketing manager. I've got this fancy degree, etc., etc. But do I have empathy with my teams? Am I good at pricing? Okay. Am I a good negotiator so that I can negotiate deals with a franchisee for my shampoo and soap? So in addition to having an MBA in marketing, what are my other capabilities that will help me to create my brand, my differentiation? Because guess what? An MBA is something that everybody has. Those are the things that we need to make stories of. And that's when you want a new job as a vice president marketing. That's what you need to talk about. Because he already has it on your LinkedIn profile that you are an MBA from London Business School. But he doesn't know how you negotiated that deal. That's important. That's what you need to create writing and blogs and content about, because that becomes your advertisement. And that all comes from where? Your capability. And if you don't recognize, or if you don't spend that Sunday afternoon once every 3 months to figure out what your capabilities are, or what your successes have been and failures, you will never know, because something that comes most naturally to me is something I take for granted. And if I don't value that innate capability myself, guess what? My boss is never going to value, though he knows, because he's my boss. He intrinsically knows what my trigger points are and how I'm doing well at what. But because he needs me to, he needs to control me, or she needs to control me, because I am a valued member, like I was bringing in the advertising, right? Even though I wasn't having lunch with the bosses, I was bringing in it. I was bringing it. And I never fought for I never understood my capabilities.
Minal, thank you so much. I'm sorry, but I'm cutting you off here. We have about 9 minutes left, and I would like to open it up for audience questions. We have one from Kirsten. Kirsten says that we need to focus on what makes sense without exploiting people, of course. It is a thing of give and take. But I imagine for starters in the business, it can be difficult to identify what is best for them and where they excel. So do you have any suggestions for such people?
I quite didn't get this question. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Kirsten, would you like to unmute yourselves and ask Minal your question?
Yeah, I think the problem was rather my usual mix of comments and questions. I'm very good at that. So the first comment was about that we build our network, but we have to make sure that we give and don't only take from our network. And the question was, we get that repeatedly from the not only the starters in the profession, who are not so sure what the value they provide to the clients, which is why they rely on qualifications and everything. So Minal, Oksana, Rohit, what's your suggestion to the starters? What can they do to develop a brand? Is that clearer?
Yes, thank you for that
Okay,
question.
thanks.
Thank you. So can I take a shot at it, Oksana and Rohit?
Absolutely, Minal.
Okay, thank
Absolutely.
you. So here it is. Just the point that I was mentioning, that we take so much of our capabilities for granted because, well, yes, it comes so naturally to us. It's a part of our DNA. We need somebody to tell us what we are good at sometimes. And it would be my endeavor to really invest in a coach, because they will give you an unbiased opinion of what you're good at or what you're not good at. So remember to do this. Really do yourselves a favor. It may cost you a few $1,000s, but do it early in your life, because that's the way you will know. Of course, there are some people who are very sensitive to their own selves, and they will figure out, what they are damn good at, what comes naturally. Another way of doing this is go ask 4 or 5 of your not team members, but because that would make an element of vulnerability will come in. But go and ask some other of your friends who are professionals to say that, what is my secret sauce? What is it that you think I'm really good at? So whilst they know you personally, but they are professionals, they will be able to suss it out. Because the boundaries between personal and professional qualities and capabilities is a very small line. So if you're not able to invest in your own coaching, or a career strategy, do this. Also, for example, for $20, you get a Gallup Strength Finder, which will give you the top 5 skills, the top 5 strengths. They don't give you capability, so therefore the storytelling elements may not come in, like I explained, but they will at least give you 4 or 5 of those top skills, so that when you are negotiating your salary raise with your boss, you are immediately able to tell him or her that, boss, this is what I did. Because you need somebody else to tell you that. Like I said, it's something that is so innate to us, we are not able to put our finger on what's your secret sauce. And these revealing assessment tests, these conversations with your friends will help you kind of filter that. And it gives you some kind of provocation to think, and then start making some examples to say, oh yeah, see, this happened, and that's why I was able to negotiate with this client. See, I had this crisis, and this is what I spoke with my team, and we got a positive business outcome of that. So then you will start reflecting, and I kid you not, those top 5, what you call them, skills or talents will actually be your success stories.
Thank you. Minal, we have a question from Dr. Joy. She wants to understand, how can one disengage from their own understanding of who they are and relook at their strengths to redefine their image? She says, with age and experience, we get crystallized into thinking of ourselves in a certain way. Repackaging our capabilities is not easy.
Okay, that's a lovely question, and I'm not sure whether I can answer that in 2 minutes, but thank you so much for that very important one. And I'm telling you, we are all curious human beings, and if you are in this business of coaching and helping people, you will be able to, it's a thing in our minds, that we can't reconfigure ourselves, because those are your talents and all are something which is embedded in you. So you already have it to, and if you are fine success, if you are fine, and if you are being received, and if you're getting your business, and if you're getting everything out of your personal brand without you actually having to activate or create it or build it, then fabulous, go with that. But if you want it as a tool, if you're using it as a tool to deliver something else that you are striving for, then that is the second thing that we need to do. And then we need to have these similar conversations. And then we have to be open to the fact that change is good, being agile is good. And somebody who is giving you data about the way you are, about what your perception is, then that should be received in a positive way. And then you will then start kind of mulling it in your head to say, maybe if I had done this differently, I might have had a different outcome. See, a personal brand is a personal journey. People like you, me, all of us, whilst we may have the guidance of a career strategist, a lot comes from gut. Whilst I may give you the framework, you will have to start doing this on your own because it all costs money. And that's the thing about the personal brand is it comes from yourself. Your English doesn't have to be perfect because we are not writing a book on LinkedIn about the work that we do. The purpose of our blog or our communication on LinkedIn is so that people recognize me for the value that I can bring. Leave it at that. Don't over engineer it. Don't overthink it. And that's the reason why there is no entry cost, because it's the personal brand. It's your own social space. And that's why it's called the personal brand. Because and everybody knows it. You don't have to be worried that your blog post sounds perfect or how you are being received. Have that much confidence that this is what you stood for and this is the value you bring, and leave it at that. And then go to your next blog or go to your next post on LinkedIn. And I'm very happy.
Sorry to cut you off. We have 2 minutes and there's one more question for you. So I'm just going to give you yes.
I'll just interrupt you.
Yes.
For these 2 minutes, would we like to play our video and close it? I know Sujata's question is pending. We will be open for we are keeping the room open for another half an hour for anyone who wants to stay back and chat and has to engage in the conversation. But maybe we should close it short.
Yes. So we have 1 minute left, and I will take this 1 minute to thank everybody who's made the effort to attend our session today. Thank you for giving up an hour on a Saturday and supporting us for our first event. A special thanks to Minal, Oksana, and Rohit, who so graciously agreed to have this super important conversation around branding, especially for business communication trainers. And with that, I'd like to request Ishita to play the video that we worked so hard on, that Dolo worked so hard on. And like Dolo mentioned, the room will be open for a couple more minutes. If you would like to hang around and ask Minal questions, please feel free to stay back. Alternatively, you can also write to us at info.becfi@gmail.com or to Minal directly. You are also welcome to connect with Minal on LinkedIn for any further conversation about personal branding. So thank you very much from everybody at BCFAI. And here's our lovely video. Please be kind.
Please be kind.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So happy to be a part of this.
Okay, also, can I request everybody to switch on their video so we can quickly take a picture? Ishita, will you take a picture?
Yeah, sure. I'll do that.
Can we do the gallery view?
I'll do that.
Yes. There. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I
Yes.
Anupama, you will just, okay, just once more if it's all right, because
Okay. Sorry about that.
no problem at all, Anupama. No problem. No problem. Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Minal's LinkedIn profile link is in the chat for everybody who would like to connect with her, and for everybody else who would like to stay back and continue talking to Minal, please feel free to stay back.
And thank you everyone for coming, for those who are dropping off now.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Stay well.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye, Ricardo. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Sujata, your question.
Yes, I don't want to impose on your time frame, Minal, but this was a question, it's very personal, which I'm sharing, that I had the singular good fortune, or maybe not good fortune, as it now turns out, to never had to self-advertise or self-brand. It sort of, was passed on by referrals or associations, networks, customer referrals, you name it, the most powerful tools for growing one's business, but not exactly for delving deeper, as you mentioned, to create a USP. Yeah. So that's why I find myself so many years later being marketed for what I perceive to be the wrong reasons. Yeah. So it is not my key competencies. I have grown, I have inquired more, I have also encountered a lot of failure, and all this amalgamation is not being exactly understood, because there's this long-standing association. Don't rock the boat, Sujata, by introducing more, because more is a little bit too, baffling. You have this one beautiful white paper profile. It's a one-pager. Customers take it, they like it. Don't rock the boat. Now, I would like to build my own personal brand based on my interests, which have turned out to be very different from what I was thought to be, let's say, 20 years ago. How do you politely unstick yourself and distance yourself from these negotiations and associations? They're all on LinkedIn, by the way. So how do you manage to unstick yourself politely, and create your own brand on the side, not on the sly, but on the side? Okay, do you have any recommendation for that?
So, this is a personal thing, and I would, I'm feeling very bad that we may have to disconnect after a short while, and therefore this is a longer thing, and I'm happy to engage with you one-on-one on this separately, and I can perhaps give you some tools of how you would like to do this, Sujata. So the first thing is we have to look at ourselves as entrepreneurs or owners of our own skills. So we have to say, what's my business model? Start looking at it. Start looking at yourself as the owner of this expertise. So, and then create a business model around it, right? When your business model is there, you will need to look at what are your ecosystem partners, who are your channel partners, how are the resources, what are the resources, financial or otherwise, and what is your aspiration. So I would say if you are in a position, see, it requires a bit of guts also, because you said that you want to kind of disassociate with certain groups, and you want to have to be there on LinkedIn as well, because, well, that's the platform, right? So look at yourselves from an aspiration. Forget about the clutter, forget about the noise, forget about what has been, right? Look at your career aspiration, and from there you work backwards to say that this is where I am, this is where I'm desiring to go, and then you write on that white paper all the things, all the moving parts that you need to deliver that aspiration. Also write the challenges that you are going to get in your way, like, for example, disassociation or whatever of these people. What are those kind of gray areas or the hot spots that you will have to cross over? But despite that, what's your burning desire? Because that's when you will be able to quantify or able to say that this desire is so much that I am willing to compromise on the hotspots, and I'm willing to do something that I'm not man. I'll have to negotiate or manage the eggshells when I am dealing with these hotspots or these people who I'm associated with. Once you put that in your plan, then what is it? Your mind is now able to look at actions to deliver that aspiration. A lot of the personal brand goes on in our head instead of actually putting it down, quantifying aspirations, capabilities, experience. Where do I want to go? What do I do? How much time am I devoting to my personal profile, for example? Am I just randomly commenting on people's LinkedIn? That takes 3 minutes of my time. Add up in a week, it's maybe 1 or 2 hours of your time. Or do I be more strategic and only put my comments because I want those comments to deliver for me? Based on those comments, I want people to check my profile.
Thank you. Very valuable. And while moving backwards, I'm sure to step on some eggshells, but that is the sound of success, probably.
Absolutely. You have to give some, take some. You're very welcome. I'm happy that I could just help with this little 1 point. Tell me anything else. How did it go?
Well, we could ask Kirsten, Mushtaq, Anupama, who were not part of the planning. So you could give us some honest feedback.
Yes.
Mushtaq, you want to start? I won't turn my camera on because I'm still in my pajamas here.
No, it's all right. You can stay off video.
I am also in my pajamas. You just can't see them.
Why, which part of the world are you in?
Shweta, yours are much nicer than mine. I have to say, I really enjoyed the format. So, Amina, great job. I learned a lot. And I think also the questions that Rohit and Oksana asked were very good. So I really enjoyed the format. I think, of course, it's the first event. You have to keep it going. But I think this is something that really makes sense because it's like a very lively podcast. So it's nicer than just looking at some slides and going for the usual webinar. So I think you did a great job. I really enjoyed it. And I learned something, which is always good.
Thank you.
Thank you for that very, very heartwarming response. Thank you.
Same here for me too. Like the way we had the format, okay, it was highly engaging, and that is most important, I suppose. And apart from that, yes, I always look for some key takeaways. Okay, so I have a couple of takeaways from this session. So one is PIE, okay, PIE, and then repositioning, yes. So, and personal brand, and instead of focusing on number of things, maybe we can narrow down the things and just work on our competencies and accomplishments, something like that. Yeah. So these are my key takeaways from this session, and it was wonderful session. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Mushtaq. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Julia.
Hello, Julia.
May I please, Anupama here?
Yes, please go on, Anupama.
Yes, I think first of all, what I want to say is thank you very much. It was such a wonderful session. When I joined, I'll be very honest, I had no idea what to expect. I mean, we have heard of personal brand and all that, and what Sujata said just now resonated because, frankly, I also have never worked on personal brand. All these years, it was either some references and all that. But I think I am going to start doing that from now on. And thank you, Minal, so much. Wonderful, wonderful insights that you gave us. And I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn as well.
Sure, happy to do that. There was one thing that I wanted to say which came out from this conversation. Let me see if I can, it's gone off, but let me see if I can, if I remember that, then I will suggest that, or I will send an email or something.
The PIE, what did E mean? I've forgotten. It's performance imaging? Exposure, right.
Always remember that. And see, what happens is that we create different pies in our life. So the The maximum exposure a person can get is when you are a thought leader and an author of a book. Because that's when your story becomes somebody else's story when they start reading. And that's complete transfer of yourself and your experiences to somebody else. When they have your book of their business management mantras in their hand. So you look at where you are in that exposure, in that ladder of exposure, and identify where you see yourself. It doesn't matter if you lead the next promotion, that's where it is. But what are you doing over and above performance? Always remember that. Proven. And I'm saying that because I feel that. And I've lived through it, and I think that's my biggest failure as well. I never networked. Because I never networked, nobody knew me. So I was being passed on for promotions. And that's the reality. Why is there something like a boys' club? I mean, again, please don't misunderstand the gender piece, but why is there something? Why is it that deals are always when, oh, meet me at the pub at 5, or let's have a coffee? Where have you ever signed a deal in an office?
Great to see you, Julia. Well, I don't have a PhD.
Neither do I.
No, because Julia wrote Dr. Gupta, so I thought, let me clarify. No, I don't think earlier I have mentioned it to you. So.
Sorry, I apologize.
So a lot of the personal brand, let it come out of the gut, because that's why it's personal brand and not professional brand. Though it is for the profession.
Sorry. I just wanted to say that a lot of what you said, I have been unconsciously doing. I just didn't know I was doing it. So it was like, the pie thing, because what I tell myself every year is, okay, you've done this last year, this year, this is what you want to do. These are the things you want to participate in. These are the kind of people you want to have conversation with. So as you were talking, as Oksana was asking you her questions, as Rohit was asking you his questions, I'm like, okay, all right. And I'm like mentally checking off a list that I have. So yeah, that was, that realization was nice.
I'm so happy you brought it. So now you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
That it has to come from a place of gut. It has to come from your capabilities. It has to be genuine.
Yeah. Julia, just to explain to you, we are just sort of, it's a post-session chat that we are having. So please feel free to come in. Doesn't matter if we've discussed it before. Just come in and be part of it.
Because
my apologies. I just came from another meeting. We're doing a training session, but this very question was raised there on the point of where does the authority come, and what Minal was just saying, that when you have a book or you have a course and you start promoting yourself, and the same question came from the course, like before you get your book, like how can you get your authorship or but from my perspective, and I'm sure that Mushtaq Hussain would agree here, that it's not necessarily writing a book to get published, because you can translate your words, you can translate your ideas through the podcast, for example, and have it promoted. This is not something that a publishing house should decide whether to put you on the light or not. We're now living in the era of creating the content by ourselves. We have our LinkedIn profiles which speak for us. We have so much I don't know, my parents were not able to do. They were not talking about personal brand 30, 40 years ago. But now it's a question of who decides. And everybody can have those communities and professional tribes that you're trying to create. And that's why I really wanted to come even for a short time to say thank you for creating another community of business communication professionals and supporting each other is a pretty much an important thing. So I would say that it doesn't matter if person doesn't have a book published, or as you said, a PhD done, or if you have something to say and it's a valid professional thing, now we have much more opportunities than ever before.
Absolutely, Yulia, and you made a great point in terms of LinkedIn, where we can carve our profiles. And when I said about the book, I meant that is the ultimate of a professional brand. When you come up with something which is your work and somebody buys that book to learn about what is your management style or adding on to some management structures, that is it. But I'm not saying that you need to do it. What I'm saying, because it is a challenge, and I know, because I'm the wife, I've been a wife of a book author. So I know how challenging it is to get that book out, and I know how challenging it is to get people to come to your book launch, Julia, when you are not recognized as a thought leader. And this whole understanding of the personal brand comes from that place, is because for a year or two, I was just working on my husband's book and how to get him to be a thought leader. And because I've had experience in business publishing, I mean, I've put my 2 and 2 bits together, and that's why I'm coming from a place of experience. But yes, you're absolutely right. Go do what you can. So don't worry about what somebody else is doing who may or may not have, who may have a similar professional profile as yours. That person's aspirations, his capabilities, or her achievements, completely different. That's the other thing that I found myself doing. Earlier, when I started I'm so glad you raised that, Yulia. Earlier, when I was on LinkedIn, I used to like, oh my God, everybody's producing this great content and everybody. And then I said, no, screw that all. And then I put it out to myself that I'm going to write a whole piece on work from home from a women's angle during the pandemic. And guess what? I sat and I wrote that. Then I said, let me do something on the work that I do, which is about capability. How does the personal brand actually help you get a competitive advantage? And I sat and wrote those 3 articles. And now I'm doing another set of articles on networking, all adding value to lead thing to the work that I'm doing, all dovetailing there. So any activity that you do, like Yulia said, you can do all of that. Try and zero it down. Is it adding value to my core work? Don't go into Instagram once or twice in a year and make those beautiful posts if you are not going to be sustaining your Instagram page. Continuity is a very, very big deal in free media.
Okay.
So remember to do that. Doesn't matter small posts, but just do that, because you know why? It's not about getting attention. It's about when somebody's searching for you on LinkedIn, what is your content profile? What is your perspective? And how differently are you saying things which are different from what other people are reflecting on their own profiles? That's it. It's not about you being found. I say Minal Jagtiani, I may not even come up in the first 2-3 pages of Google. A lot of us have lost that. Why? Because there are people who have written books, who are constantly perceived as thought leaders, who are constantly out there increasing their Google rankings on the Google algorithms, having YouTube videos, being invited, being received, getting awards, etc., etc. But for the rest of us professionals who are damn good at what we do, look at LinkedIn or look at all of that on how to build your profile with content, because content is your advertisement. It reflects your perspective. And when you are being Googled, what is coming out of you? What do you stand for? Very important.
Lots of food for thought.
Yeah.